Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, significant other, children, family, friends, community, and higher power, then this is the show for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create the life you love or love the life you create. Now here's your host, Dr. April, and her co-host, Coach K.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I know it's just, I said us, but it's just going to be Dr. April today. And I have a wonderful guest today. So here in the month of January, if you caught last week's episode and this week, we're really dealing with what we call kind of self-intimacy. And today's topic that's dealing with self-intimacy is the key to developing self-confidence. As a therapist, I do a lot of sessions, and many times, and even just working with people, many times people struggle with that relationship with self. And you may think like, what do you mean struggle with the relationship of self? That is struggling with accepting, loving yourself, feeling confident, being your true self. And that is so critical in all aspects of life. So sometimes people ask me, how do you do all the things that you do? And if you get the chance to, know me personally, you know that I'm pretty a shy person in some aspect. But my shyness and my, being an introvert doesn't mean that I'm not confident. And I think what makes me confident is really knowing myself. And I am hoping that through, the show and through all the things that we're going to talk about, even today, on how to develop that self-confidence, because many things can knock us off of that, from past things, from the people you're around, from different devices. And we're going to get into all of that. So I'm so excited because we have someone who is as a life coach. His name is Shane Jacob, and he is going to explain to us. I'm going to have a discussion about how do you develop self-confidence, because in reality, you can break up with a lot of different people, but you can't break up with yourself. So stay tuned for that. But before we get into that, we do have a nonprofit that we'd like to highlight. And this nonprofit for this month is the National Cervical Cancer Coalition. It's a great organization. Especially if you're struggling with cancer in that area, or you know someone who does, definitely check them out. And the website is www.ncc/online.org. Anyway, we'll be right back. And when we come back, we're going to meet with Shane Jacob, a life coach. Be back in a moment.
Learn to cultivate a deeper connection with yourself and your inner spirit in order to further manifest a more fulfilling, intimate life. Find your purpose in life, develop unwavering confidence, heal your inner child, and authentically live this purpose every day. It starts with you. Couldn't be further from the truth. Intimacy is not taboo, nor should it cost a fortune. Get your copy today. It Starts With You is available on Amazon, Audible, and...
Welcome, Shane. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I love your show, so I'm excited to be a part of it today.
Oh, yes. So, Shane, I know you're a life coach, and when I think about even just the term life coach, many times these people have gone through a lot of different things in their life. And reading about your background, which I would love for you to explain to us and talk to us about. But you've gone through a lot. You've, had the highs and the lows. Yeah.
For sure.
And yes. And for sometimes when people have so much tragedy, they just fall apart. But you became resilient. And the great also thing is you have a good, deep faith.
Yeah. I appreciate the. Would you like me just to go on a little bit about the story? Is that what you're saying here? Ready to
Yes.
go?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciated the way that you began this with, a lot of times people just say, what do you mean, the relationship with myself? Because, we're not taught a lot of this. When I was a very young man, when I was in my teens and 20s, I didn't have a specific trauma. I didn't really have a solid reason. It's just part of uh, the human experience is developing the way that what we hold to be true about ourselves, what we believe to be true about ourselves. And so when I was a young man, it seemed like in my teens and even into my 20s, uh, I had a lot of thoughts going on. I could hear this voice and it was just telling me, hey, something's wrong, Shane. You don't quite measure up. You're not as good as you're deficient in some way. And so I was super shy and just really inside of myself and didn't have the courage to get out. I tried to, I did pretty good in sports. I really tried to fit in. I tried to fit into my peer groups. But all of this time, in the back of my mind, I have these voices that are telling me that, you know, I don't know if you're okay, but I think that something's wrong with you. You're not the same as the rest. And so somewhere along, when I first experienced alcohol, when I was about 16, I found the solution to my problem. I mean, I
Mm.
felt better, right?
Yes.
So problem solved. All right,
Yes.
what's next?
Yes. Yes. Alcohol can sometimes put itself as a friend, but is it really?
Yeah, for sure not. But
Yes,
but I did.
exactly.
I felt that immediate sense of I felt better, and I wasn't thinking these thoughts during those times, and I felt myself like connecting with people and not being able to kind of open up a little bit, and so in part, and I would say mostly as a result of those feelings, that led to a uh, decades. Okay, I'm talking about of drinking to excess on a daily basis. I was in jail. I was locked up multiple times. It's just the trail of destruction and pain that I caused other people that I left behind me was not only pretty substantial, but it was permanent. Okay, some things that you just can't fix, and so as you go to jail and then you continue to drink. And I would wake up on a daily basis. And I mean, I'm 100%er. I mean, I didn't miss any days. And no, I mean drinking to excess. I mean drinking to excess. I mean,
Right.
like in the end there, it was somewhere between 24 to 30 beers every 24-hour period. In
Wow.
22 plus years, I missed 2 days of not drinking to excess, and those 2 days were 2 days that I was hospitalized where I couldn't even move, and that's the only
Wow.
reason. So I mean, I for real was an addict. Okay,
Right, right,
and
right. I was just thinking when you start drinking at a very young age as a teenager, that, like you said, it did stop, but it stops that emotional intelligence. It stops the brain. It numbs it so much, so it becomes your main coping skill, whether you're happy, mad, sad, whatever the thing is. Yeah.
that was my coping skill, and I know you're right that I what you just said is I diminished my ability to learn, my ability to
Right.
grow, my ability to develop myself as a human being. I can't even believe that I can even still be alive as much as I've drank. I diminished and ruined my relationships, which is secondary to all the pain and destruction that I caused to other human beings on this planet. And it was a
Shane, I have a quick question. Did you have addiction run in your family?
no.
No. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully it
Hmm.
doesn't continue past me, but the answer is no, I didn't. My parents or neither of my grandparents that I know of, drank or did drugs to my knowledge ever.
When
Yeah.
did it become an addiction? Because sometimes people are just experimenting, but it just instant that you started liking it, or?
Well, it felt better, and so it was a place to go to kind of escape. And of course, it was a progression, it developed over a number of years, and it progressively, took over my life. And it progressively, I didn't start out as a teenager drinking 24 plus beers a
Of
day.
course.
But when I
Right.
quit drinking, I was drinking 24 plus beers every 24-hour period. And I'd done that for a number of years. So yes, it was kind of a binge drinking thing, and then eventually in and out of jail it became a daily thing, and then the frequency stayed daily, and then the amount progressed over a period of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then you also mentioned relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. How did that impact that relationship with self, with your higher
Um,
power, and with others?
uh, with others, for sure, when you're checked out in alcohol, you're just not present. There is no intimacy. It's pretty hard to have a sexual intimacy when you're drinking that much. And I'm disconnected from everything but connected to alcohol. I uh, had a divorce in my marriage of 17 years. The relationships with my kids were disintegrating. I really wasn't aware of it, but it had a tremendous impact on as you can imagine, on everything around me and the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know sometimes they say people have to hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that for sure that if we want change, we've got to realize that a couple of things. We need to realize that we need to come to a place that that what is going on is just so terrible that we're just going to have to move on. And that's something that you can create inside your mind. You don't necessarily, I mean, anybody's rock bottom can be anything. I
Mm-hmm.
think something else that's important in change is you know developing a belief of what you could be instead of what you are is pretty important, which kind of leads into the idea of self-confidence and what it is and how important it is in relationships. Because in order to change, I think those two, you know by the time I quit drinking, I didn't know. Okay, I didn't know if I could do it. I knew I was addicted physically and mentally, and it was my life, and it was my work, and I kind of designed my life around it, and I'd been doing it for so long. I didn't know if I could break free. I like to say, with the help of horses and through the grace of God, I was able to break free from what I had caused, and I was able to do that. But I didn't know if I could when I began. You know, I didn't know if I could. But the thing that I did know is I had an idea of what I could be. I could see myself as a person who didn't drink, and I think that's extremely important in for people that want to change into anything, is just to be able to believe that they could become that person. You don't have to know, right? Just have some faith and act on that faith. And the next thing that I knew is that I could give everything that I had, to make an effort towards not doing it. Like the first day, the only thing that I do is I was going to give everything I could to not drink for that day. And I did it that day, the first day. And I did it yesterday too. And in between yesterday and that first day has been 9 years.
Wow. Yeah. That's very impressive. Um, I know sometimes people, like you said in the beginning, it gives you, that fake confidence, or people call it liquid courage in some ways.
They do.
But then,
Yeah.
really, alcohol is really a depressant. You know what I'm saying? It says one thing, but then it drops you and you feel worse than you did when you even started. Yeah.
I've come to know. The thing, um, Dr. April, that I've learned, and I look back and I wish I could have told my younger self, and the things that I talk to teens and their parents about now, is what I wish I could have known. And that is that is that you know what we believe about ourselves, the the self-confidence in our the things that we believe to be true about ourselves is something that we develop over a lifetime. A lot of times we look at it and we say, well, I have self-confidence. I got that all taken care of a long time ago. And, I can see those people over there that see how they're acting. That's not that's low self-confidence. See, I have self-confidence. And sometimes we don't give it very much attention. And in fact, the things that we believe about ourselves to be true, we're constantly developing, whether we're conscious of it or not, inside of our minds as we go through life. The things that we do and say and think, right? We make meaning about what that means about us. Okay. So for example, I'm going along and I'm feeling pretty good. And then I lose my temper and say something I wish I wouldn't have. Now I got to think, well, what does that mean about me, Shane? Okay.
Right.
And if I'm not aware of it and I don't choose any meaning to make about it, my default brain is going to make some meaning that I might not want to have happen about that. Or we also make meaning about what happens to us, what people do to us. So for example, in extreme cases of abuse, right? You're going along and somebody does something to you, right? And then you look at yourself and say, well, why did that happen to me? What does that mean about me? And so if we're not conscious of this, if human beings don't become conscious of the idea that our self-beliefs are not static, your self-confidence isn't something that you had and that you did and that you accomplished. It's something that's happening right now.
Exactly.
And so as you become aware of that, if you can go with the idea that it's important and it affects everything, it affects every intimate relationship and the quality, because what it does is it gives you the courage to be vulnerable and so therefore intimate, to have this higher quality of connection with the people. And that's what we're kind of here for.
Right.
So it's extremely important. The other thing that that is not taught a lot, okay, is the idea that what was happening to me and happens to all of us is we've talked about, is that when I feel bad and have those feelings, I need to know, and human beings need to know, that's okay. I mean, the goal necessarily doesn't have to be to go and find something to feel good all the time, to check out from life and go like I did and find alcohol to feel better. So when we can learn to be able to feel feelings, including fear and including discomfort, I think to the level that we're willing to feel emotion and to feel discomfort and know that it's kind of part of the deal, rather than these, checking out with these buffering things. Like there's so many things that we can do that don't serve us, that harm our lives and harm the people around us, like addiction, like overeating, like, all the things that bring us a long-term result. But it's not easy. So unless we're aware of it, our brain's like, hey, feel better. Boom, here's how you go. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I have a kind of a two-part question. One is, if there are like men out there listening, and I'm just going to pick on men for a reason, and they feel like, they have this issue, but as a man, you're supposed to be very self-confident, know what you're doing, this and that. And to say that I have a problem, even though I have to drink every day, it seems like contradictory then, but I'm supposed to lead this family. I'm supposed to be, the head of a church, the head of a business. But to say I have a problem, that's like taken away from my, confidence. And this could be any, or even a high A personality person, who's just a leader. But then on the other flip side, it's just also the person that's supporting that person, whether it's the wife, the kids, the parents. What do you do when you see your loved one just struggling in that? And if you were to tell them, hey, I think you should go to AA, or you got issues with alcohol, you're going to get that defense. No, there's nothing wrong with me. What do you do?
Well, the only person that I can control is me. If somebody has a desire to change, we can help them. They can change. If they have a desire to change, they're going to change. I would question the idea that because I have a problem, I can't have confidence, because I just want to, let's just talk about a little bit some of the definitions. I won't get too far into it, but let's just say what self-confidence is, just to be clear. So confidence, the way I look at confidence is based on my ability to do a thing. And so it's past based. Okay. So in other words, I can look back in my life, and I'm a horseman. And so I can say, I can ride, a horse and do a certain activity on a horse. And I'm very confident in doing that. And because I've done it for 30 years, and it feels good, and it's not hard because I have my past to look back on. And so moving forward, I can base my thoughts and my feelings on my past. Okay. That's confidence in a thing. Self-confidence is a totally different thing. Self-confidence is a feeling, but it's the feeling of the future. It's not based on the past.
Mm.
Okay. But I can generate, it's the skill of generating the feeling of self-confidence is what I'm all about. And that in wrapped up in that is developing beliefs and a relationship with yourself, and becoming to love yourself and realize that you are a invaluable, priceless soul, regardless of what you have done. Okay.
Mm.
Period.
Right.
I,
Right.
I I mean, regardless of what you have done, whatever that might be. And
Mm-hmm.
so that skill of developing that feeling is something that if we become aware of and we learn how to do, we can develop that feeling, because what we're going to need to do to move forward and make progress, and by the way, to have the courage to be vulnerable. Okay. Because if we are vulnerable, then we're able to have that stronger connection and that increased intimacy that I believe that we all hunger for as human beings. And
Right.
so the question is how do I learn how to generate that feeling? Because people feel it. You walk
Mm-hmm.
into a room, and women, you talked about men are listening, and you mentioned that a minute ago. Hey, women know. They're kind of like horses. I mean, if you have a secret or something, and you go to the barn, good luck, because as soon as you walk into the barn, the horses know what's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people do too. Not quite as much as horses, but people do too. And so the the feelings inside of us that are coming from our thoughts that we can choose are coming out, right? And people see
Right.
that, and it's attractive, right? We all know
Right.
self-confidence is attractive, and we want to go for that, and it feels good. But a lot of times it doesn't feel good to do it. Courage, if I say courage, part of self-confidence is having the courage. It's not hiding in fear, it's not hiding in shame. It's
Mm-hmm.
having the courage to open up, be vulnerable, expose yourself, and have it be okay no matter what happens, because the worst thing that's going to happen is how it's going to make you feel. And if
Right.
you're okay and you can withstand that, and you don't have to go buffer, you're going to have a pretty amazing life. Okay. But it doesn't feel good. Courage sounds good, and we all want to be courageous, but it doesn't feel good doing it. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
difficult. It's pretty difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you've said quite a few things in what you just described, and part of it in the thought process. Can I put it? I think people get from others, from the media, whatever, thoughts about who they are, and we can't believe everything our mind says. And then a feeling, like you said, sometimes we have to feel the things that we don't want to feel, but a feeling isn't going to last forever.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about the work that you do and helping people as a life coach who are struggling with self-confidence, whether it's through they're struggling because of addiction or other things.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that. I appreciate the question. I have the opportunity to work with teens mostly, and their parents, and young adults. And, it's just, like I said, it's part of the human condition. It's not taught a lot. And the thing of it is here's my question. What if you could believe whatever you wanted to about yourself? Okay. Because you can. And the fact that your mind is telling you something, maybe you want to discard that. Like you just said, the fact that your mind's telling you something is irrelevant to this. The thing of it is you get to choose. We all get to choose whatever we believe to be true about ourselves. And so as we learn and develop, and we're in our early time of teens, and even into 20s and 30s, and it goes on through your life. There's no
Right.
cap on it. It's happening to me right now, but I have a chance to help teens understand and to become intentional about their thinking, to understand all this chatter that's going here and how meaningless a lot of it is, and kind of how to make meaning, and that we actually get to choose meaning if we know to choose it. And so when we choose to like ourselves, and see, I rejected this. I'll tell you, Dr. April, I rejected the idea. I thought if I accept myself as I am, I'm going to settle for the way I am. And I'm not happy with what I've been doing. And I'm not happy with me. And by the way, it doesn't even affect my relationship, because what I think about me has nothing to do with how I choose to treat somebody else. Okay. And
Right.
I mean, to hear me say it now, it sounds ridiculous, and it is, but I actually believe that. And a lot of people do.
Because people treat you the way you treat yourself.
That's exactly it. Without a without a commitment to pursue a loving relationship, okay, with ourselves for our lifetime, without it, we simply will not have the capacity to give as much as we are capable of. We won't have developed the capacity to give as much as we can to the people that we love, or to make our contribution in this world while we're here. That's how important it is.
Wow. Yes. And the enjoyment of working at that teen level where all of us come through puberty or teens. And like you said, even in the beginning of your story, we get these thoughts about these things that says, we're not good enough. We're not good enough. We're not good enough. Yeah. And so you
But
have the opportunity to change that in working with young people. It's amazing.
or just to help, right? Just to help,
Yeah.
because but we don't know. I mean, we don't know what we don't know. And
Right.
what we really want to do in this lifetime, what we all really want to know is that we're okay, that
Right.
we're worthy, that we're acceptable, that our value is not less than in any other way. If we can come to know that, it changes everything. And and so this isn't just an idea. I mean, I've formulated 8 habits to develop, self-confidence. I didn't develop them. I just organized them. They're not all my ideas, but we relate them to horses in our stable living coaching. But when you become aware of, if you can accept the idea that your self-image, your beliefs about yourself are imperative and they're important, if you can accept that, if you can next accept the idea that what you believe about yourself is your decision and you can be intentional about it, then you can simply develop habits that will incrementally over time change the quality of your life and the people around you. And being able to experience that to the degree that I have, and to be able to watch people be able to do the same thing, is a gift.
And so, how is confidence and tying to horses?
Yeah.
Explain that connection. I have a feeling, but I'm not quite sure. But I have a feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many ways. Horses are just these magnificent creatures that I've had the opportunity. I mean, they're just one of God's gifts. I,
Yes.
I love horses. I've been blessed to be able to work with horses for my career. Um, Horses, like I said, when you come to the barn, horses are totally reactive. So let's just back up one moment.
Okay.
When I interact with a horse, that's a relationship. Okay.
Right.
So my relationship with a horse is similar, has a lot of similarities to my relationships with people. And horses, a lot of times, can be good examples on how to relate with people. For example, um, horses, they are so reactive and they're so hyper alert of what's going on. They can sense things that I feel before I'm even a lot of times become aware of it. And so they kind of mirror what's going on inside of us. And that's why,
Mm.
they kind of tell on you if if you're trying to hide something, they can do that. And so, if I'm feeling bad, I'm going to get a bad result. If I have an unresolved conflict in my head, it's going to come through in my interaction with that horse today. If I feel afraid or I feel fear, they sense that and they don't take advantage of that fear. What horses do when they sense fear is that they think that something's wrong. They're like, hey, I can sense and feel you feel fear.
Right.
And so they start looking around and wondering why you're feeling fear, and then they react on that fear. And then a lot of times, whoever's expressing the fear gets to go to the hospital. So
Yes.
sometimes, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
The horses react on fear. But horses are also an excellent example of how we can be with ourselves and be with relationships. And I'll just give you one quick example.
Yes, sir.
Since it's a relationship, sometimes with horses, it's an imperfect world. And let's just say that that I get my emotions involved, I get impatient, and I feel like I did something unfair to this horse. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, that horse is going to react to what I did, and he's not just going to probably not just going to sit there and take it, or he won't for very long. There's going to be a reaction. If I recognize that I was unfair and I try to fix it and repair it and go back, once I've had it a very short period of time, because horses are pretty forgiving, to reestablish the trust, and it doesn't take very long, that horse will forgive and forget like that. There'll be no residue. He'll totally let it go, and it'll just be gone, right? Unless I do something unfair again, and then we'll start over. But horses are the reason I bring this up is that it's amazing to watch the purity. They just don't hold on to things. And one of the 8 habits of confident people is that we let go of and don't hold on to, whatever it is that we've done that we're ashamed of, or that we wish that we wouldn't have done. We need to let it go, and we need to have it be. We need to separate what we have done, because here's the thing: we all get to experience shame. We've all done something, that one thing, right? I've done some stuff. Okay, we're not going to talk about it today, but I've done some stuff, and I have to have that be okay. I have to separate what I have done with my value as a human soul on this earth. And I have to know that because I did that thing, it doesn't diminish my value to myself or to the world or to God or to anyone. And so that's the reason I bring this up, because that's one of the habits of confident people. They're not holding on to shame, and we forgive. And by the way, this also allows us to have the capacity to forgive others more easily.
Right, right. And like you said, not carry around tons of guilt. Yeah, to let it
Big
go.
deal.
Yes. Awesome. Yes. So if people are out there listening and they want to connect with you, how can they go about doing that?
Appreciate. Yep, you betcha. We're at thehorsemanshipjourney.com.
Okay, thehorsemanshipjourney.com. And is your service only for teenagers?
Primarily teenagers and their parents. We also have, if you're interested in self-confidence and personal development, come talk to us.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on, and thank you so much. And we'll be back in a moment.
Thank you so much.
A must-have for parents to be first-time parents, empty nesters, and parents all around. There are infinite ways to parent a child, but the trick is trying to figure out the best way that fits you and your child. Create strong connections during pregnancy, to not pulling your hair out during the terrible twos, navigating puberty, and having adult conversations with your adult children. The Intimacy of Parenthood covers it all, and it is now on Amazon, available in Kindle, Audible, and paperback.
Welcome back to the Brilliant Intimacy Show, where intimacy is real. I'd like to thank so much Shane Jacob for his conversation, and also just for him being so authentic and what he's experienced, and how he's talking about the importance of confidence. So definitely check him out. Go to his website. Again, his website was www.thehorsemanshipjourney.com. So what's coming up next week, we're going to talk more again about healing and about healing through intimacy. So it's Intimacy RX, Healing Through Connection, on January 30th, your guide to non-monogamous relationship. On February 6th, Discovering Your Heroes in Hiding. And on February 13th, Unlocking the Secrets of Attachment Styles. Well, this has been a wonderful show. Please rate us on the different social media platforms and let us know. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Dr. April Brown's 7-book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon. We'll see you next Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.